Joe is going to love this because Joe loves this movie. So
I already responded to the tweet.
Did you? It says Andy Muschietti reflects on the mixed reception to The Flash. A lot of people did not see it, but you know how things are these days. People don't see things, but they like to talk shit about it.
Oh,
and
boy.
Joe, we talked about this a little bit on your show, where it's like if as many people saw the movie as they talk shit about it, then it would have been a successful movie. They like to jump on bandwagons. They don't really know. People are angry for reasons that are unrelated to these things. Of course, we had a publicity crisis with Ezra. That is undeniable, which I think everybody agrees that that's one of the issues. And I'm not questioning that. But yeah, we love the movie, and actually, we really recommend it.
I mean, props to this guy for taking the movie to the finish line, because it was a mangled mess by the time he got a hold of it. So
yeah, I give him props for that. Yeah,
I don't like this movie. I'm not a fan of it, but I don't blame Andy.
I heard it was your favorite, Darren.
I mean,
like that's what you told me.
I mean,
you said Ezra was your favorite Flash.
I mean, hell, I'll say this, and like I've said it to Ronan and Darren. I think this is. I'm not saying this movie doesn't have issues. It certainly does. But I think its actual strong points are not typically talked about because of the amount of issues it does have. Yes, does it have some very muddy CGI at multiple spots? Sure.
I disagree with that.
That's the surface level stuff. Like that's very niche. And really, when you look at the story they're adapting Flashpoint, as soon as they get into the time travel, they kind of take the story in the beats beat for beat, if you think about it, because they recruit an older Batman, they rescue a Kryptonian, Barry gets struck by lightning twice, and they fight in a superpowered war. So they loosely play fast and loose with Flashpoint there a little bit. And, the stuff between Barry and his mom, is it as good as what the show did? No, not necessarily, but I think it still lands. And,
I like
as somebody who, lost a very prominent parental figure that raised me when I was young, that really resonates with me. So I was able to connect with the emotional bits. And seeing Keaton back, that kind of felt like another version of No Way Home for me, where like it was another childhood hero of mine coming back. So I'll give credit where credit is due. The movie has problems, things I won't excuse, but I think there are a lot of strong points.
So you weren't a fan of the CGI and the VFX? That was kind of one of your big things, or no?
It definitely looked pretty muddy at points. I will say the part where he runs to Gotham, that looked great, and I was never really visually impressed in the movie after that, where especially in the third act it was very, very messy.
I want to hear Joe's rebuttal to that, because you said you disagree, so I'm curious what you have to say about that.
Yeah, first of all, I love this movie. I think it's one of the top 10 best superhero movies of all time. I think it is probably the second best DC movie of all time. I think the best DC movie of all time is Shazam. This is probably number 2.
Do you just have a thing for guys in red with lightning bolts?
Maybe. I would actually describe this as a perfect film. Like I really struggle to think of one negative thing to say about it. Now, when I did see it the first time, I thought some of the CGI was terrible. But then the VFX artist came out and said that was an intentional choice.
Yeah, I don't believe that.
I absolutely believe it, and I'll tell you why. They said it was a choice because they wanted to show what Barry sees in the Speed Force. Now, if you think about that, when you're traveling at super speed, it makes sense that he wouldn't see everything super sharp, and that it would be kind of blurry and weird to him because he's traveling at such an unnatural speed. And I think what backs that up is there isn't a single bad CGI shot in this film when he's not in the Speed Force. Like the beginning scene with Batman and the rescuing the guy on the bridge, that looks great.
Almost every cameo in the third act has bad CGI.
Even I was like,
that was in the Speed Force.
And then I went, oh.
But that was in the Speed Force.
Right. You said that there's no cameo. You said that there's no CGI in the Speed Force.
Well, wasn't it proven, Joe? Didn't you bring it up? We talked about this, that some of those are not CGI. They're just like footage that wasn't.
Oh, yeah. Pretty much none of them were CGI. Now, they did use some CGI to manipulate them. And I think that was the thing. They wanted them to deliberately look a little weird because they were in the Speed Force. Because it's been come out. it's come out that was archival footage of Christopher Reeve. Helen Slater and Nicolas Cage went in and shot their scenes, and Nicolas Cage even said he thought it looked weird. He's like, I was there, and that wasn't.
That's
really
crazy that Nick shot his scene. I would guarantee that looked like.
Okay, well, you can't tell me that that's archival footage of Adam West because his Batman is missing his ears. You can only make that kind of mistake with CGI.
Yeah,
but that's the point. They were trying to make it look unreal.
I'll say this: if that was his choice,
that.
that's his choice.
But
Eric, you lend him your context to Barry, so we could like enhance that like visual. Because even me, I was having fun with the movie. I was having fun. Then I went, oh no.
Well, hang on 1 second though, because you said again that's just an excuse they made, but I don't believe that holds water. Because whenever they weren't in the Speed Force...
Let Joe cook, everybody. Let him...
No, whenever they weren't in the Speed Force, the CGI in this movie is great. The only weird scenes are when they're in the Speed Force or when you're seeing things from Barry's perspective, like the babies. That's the only time the CGI looks weird.
We weren't seeing the babies from his perspective at first, though. We were just seeing babies. When he put the baby in the microwave, that was just us seeing a baby. The suit looks
he was moving
rubbery and fake.
At super speed, though.
Still, that's not gonna. That's no excuse to make things look like claymation. Because in the show, when we saw stuff from his perspective on a TV budget, it did not look like weird off claymation.
Okay. Yeah, but they weren't making that choice.
I'm saying they can't, but my whole thing is I can understand if they came out with that before they saw people complaining, but they didn't say, oh, that was supposed to be like that on purpose until weeks after the film had got torn to hell.
I think the VFX artists were just stretched thin.
Which is not a surprise.
Even if your logic stands, which let's play on that, and again, sure. I definitely respect it.
We love Joe.
I still don't like it. like even if it was all done on purpose and that was the plan, I still think that would have been a bad decision.
So you're saying aesthetically, even if it was done on
even
purpose,
aesthetically, I think it looks bad in my opinion, and I don't want to take.
And that's a fair criticism. That's a fair criticism because. If you like what you like, you don't like what you don't like. But I don't think it's fair to say these guys were making it up and just saying that as an excuse when every other scene, the scenes involving Batman, the scene at the final battle, Supergirl, all her stuff, that stuff all looked great.
I agree, Chevany. I thought Sasha Calle was actually
she was. Thank God, she was in the movie.
Her and Keaton were the best parts.
Yeah, and again, the movie has its charm here and there.
The movie was an uphill battle for me because I don't like Ezra Miller in this role. So right away, I got to go in and compromise on that. You know what I mean?
Especially since there's two of them.
I'll let Joe finish, but I have my thoughts on this film, and it's just it's fascinating.
Yeah, Joe, do you have anything else to add, or
not really? I just thought this was a perfect film. I would put this top 10 superhero movies I've ever seen.
Respectfully, it wouldn't even be in my top 25. Respectfully,
not in my top.
You know what I mean? I'm not saying there's any everybody has their own taste.
Yeah,
I just don't think this movie for me. Delivered the way I wanted it to, and a lot of that honestly has to do with Ezra Miller, and I know that's bad, but I just don't like him in this role, and I think he was in this movie, if I'm going to give him any credit, it's going to be Young Barry. I think Young Barry was the better of the two characters, the more interesting of the two characters, but Keaton for me and Sasha were the standout in the film, and the problem is, in general, whether you like Ezra or not, Ezra is actually a really good actor, in other things. I think Ezra was miscast as Barry Allen.
Agreed.
I wouldn't even say. I wouldn't even say that. I wouldn't even say he was miscast. The scripts he got were bad. He was bad.
Yeah.
The direction he received was terrible, in my opinion. Trying to basically make him the Tom Holland of the Justice League by having him be one of the youngest members. And making him almost, for lack of, basically trying to make it seem like he's somewhat on the spectrum and awkward and stuff. That's not Barry Allen.
No,
You could do the whole awkward nerdy thing. Grant Gustin got that down to a T. You could do the whole awkward nerdy thing, but still make him smart.
And those were Wally characteristics. But
exactly
with Ezra's thing, he wasn't given bad scripts outside of Zack Snyder's Justice League, honestly, because the whole awkward, quirky bit, that was a lot of Whedon influence, and that carried over into the 2023 movie, because in the Snyder Cut, he is marginally less awkward and obnoxious. He's, not just the dorky doofus that's screwing everything up in the end. He's actually a competent superhero.
Can I, Joe, I'm also going to let you go, Joe, because I know you have something to say, but I just want to put this out there. Part of what I think made the movie bad for me, or worse than what I would have expected it to be, was the hype before the movie came out. This is why I've said, like, a lot of times overhyping of a film ruins it for people. And I hate that it did that for me, because I would have probably gone in and been a little bit more relaxed on my viewing experience. But I was told by several people that this is like monumental and it's life changing or whatever. I don't think you should say that about any movie coming out. You know what I mean? I just don't think anybody should say that.
Like, they got so many celebrities to go out and say that it was good.
Yeah.
At a CinemaCon, I'll never forget.
That's on me. It's on me too, because that's how I went into it. You know what I mean?
There's a quote that that me and Taz had once where I said, this movie is either a masterpiece or everybody joined a cult. And everyone joined a cult, apparently.
I guess. Look, Joe has a much better perspective on it, and I wish I could get there. I just
all due
can't.
respect, Joe. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But Joe, what were you going to say in rebuttal to me about Ezra being miscast? I think that's.
Well, actually, I think Jake said it for me. Okay. I don't think he was necessarily miscast. I think they had a different vision for who the character was, and I think he was well cast for what they wanted the Flash to be. It just wasn't. He was not playing Barry Allen from the comics. There's no two ways around it. He wasn't. I would argue Grant Gustin wasn't either. I don't think
not totally. You're right.
Neither was John Wesley Shipp. Neither was John Wesley Shipp. Honestly,
and he was the closest.
There was a lot of Wally West in here. They were calling him. I mean, not 100%.
Bit of Bart in there too.
There was a little bit of Bart in here. It's almost like he was an amalgam of all the Flashes. But and one more thing. I'm sorry, I don't want to take the stage too long. But one more thing I'll say real quick before I shut up.
Yeah. Everybody get their last bits in. We're gonna move on after this.
I do think there was another movie that came out this same summer, and I think that. I did a whole video on how Flash was so much better than this other movie, but Across the Spider-Verse came out, and everybody praised Across the Spider-Verse, and I was like, that movie was literally what James Gunn called cameo porn. All these different versions of Spider-Man came in, and they really didn't do anything. They just kind of would show up, and you'd be like, there he is. Oh, look, there's that one. Ultimately, I like that movie, but I kind of was like, oh my God, this is they're just sticking them up there to be there. But this movie, we got these cameos at the end. And I said, this is cameos done right. Because they were only in there for like a minute. They didn't outlive their welcome. It wasn't like we're going to like overdo this. It was like they were there. They served a story purpose because it was to show the effects on the multiverse. And you couldn't do that without seeing the other universes. So they served a story purpose and they were in and out. And it was like they didn't overstay their welcome. It was just like, there they are. They serve their purpose and they're gone.
Well, can I rebut that a little bit? I think the point of the Spider-Verse movies was to connect a bunch of different Spider people together. That was the purpose of that film, right?
Right.
So I'm saying, like, I don't think they were meant to be cameos. I think they were supposed to be integral parts of the story.
I don't think they were in the second one, though. The first one, absolutely.
Maybe not. Yeah. But I think that was the intention of the film, was to
thematically.
Raising hand.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm going to rebuttal on that thing with the cameos because I had a problem with almost each and every one of them. The only one I didn't have an issue with as a cinephile, I thought the Nicolas Cage one was cool. Because like only 3% of the people watching the movie are going to get that. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. You get to see him fight that spider that they threw into Wild Wild West, so it was cool. But I already said my aggravation with the Adam West one, how it's like completely missing the ears, which is the only kind of, you can only make that mistake with CGI. I always have an issue whenever they try to puppet around dead actors, because they did it with Christopher Reeve, again, Adam West. but also George Reeves' inclusion in this movie was incredibly fucked up given his story, and the fact that they released this movie on the anniversary of his death, I also did not.
Oh God!
But also, you look at
Brandon Routh is right there. He's
Right.
alive. He's
Brandon
that
Routh is right
character.
there. He plays the same character Christopher Reeve did.
Oh.
You could have easily used him. And then when you get to the whole Jay Garrick side of things, instead of using the actor who played Jay Garrick, or even the person who we thought was Jay Garrick, which wouldn't have made any sense, but that's who people thought it was, you just use the editor of the movie as the reference point for a CGI face as a Jay Garrick that's never appeared before, that we'll never see again, instead of just using archive footage of the other 2 live-action Barry Allens. Granted, one of them would be playing Jay Garrick, but again, you didn't have to have them come in and shoot anything. You had 9 seasons of footage you could have pulled from, and them saying that there's no room to include those 2 is a bold-faced lie when you look at what the movie did have.
But like I said, I'm
That's my
grateful. I'm grateful they left Grant out of that movie. Like,
Yeah.
they gave that appearance for
Yeah.
no offense, a better movie.
I mean, the real tea is that the name The Flash comes from Grant.
Comes
that's how
from Grant.
Ezra
Gave
got
it
the
to
name
him
for his
in
character.
Crisis, yeah.
Incidentally,
what part
Tom
did-
Cruise was supposed to be the Jay Garrick in that scene.
What part did you
Oh,
not
wow.
know, Chris? I was curious what part he didn't know, but yeah, they just because everybody thought that Jay Garrick in that scene was Teddy Sears, but that wouldn't have made sense, and B, Teddy Sears himself confirmed it wasn't him.
So, from what I understand, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong about this, only because you guys seem to know a little bit more than I do about the film. Wasn't that part of the way they were trying to reset the DCEU was to do this in the Flash? Wasn't that the whole point of this?
There's set photos of Keaton.
Yeah,
This movie had multiple drafted endings.
Okay.
It had endings with Affleck, endings with Keaton, and then because they were going to have a Affleck Lost in Time, and they were going to do something kind of Final Crisis-esque, where you were going to have Keaton and Supergirl still in this new universe. That was Hamada's idea. But then George Clooney being included at the end of this movie is 100% on James Gunn.
All right. Anybody else have any last words? And we're getting some super chat.
I
Let's
just
move on.
Point out the Ben Affleck Lost in Time thing was never verified. That came from unreliable scoopers like Grace Randolph. But we do know that this was supposed to bring Michael Keaton into the DCEU full time.